Hi, I'm George Crump, lead analyst with Storage Switzerland. We did a webinar a few weeks ago on hardware sprawl. One of the key things that came out of that was that users were really struggling with how to handle performance. And performance is generating much of the storage hardware sprawl. So let's talk about that. So how does this happen? Well, typically what happens is you have an application. Let's say it's a Microsoft SQL app, or you have a virtualized server that's running a bunch of VMs. And then one of these VMs or this Microsoft SQL application generates some sort of performance problem. User calls you up, says, hey, my performance isn't any good, you need to fix it, and you need to fix it now. Well, the good news is we have the ability to fix it thanks to Flash. And so now the scramble is to fix it. And so we just kind of, a lot of times, are guilty of throwing hardware at the problem. So what does the rest of the environment look like? We probably have a storage array here. It's probably attached to a storage network. And so we have that situation. Well, the problem is you've got a lot of options right now to figure out where to put and solve the performance problem. Well, the number one thing you could do is get rid of this storage array, put a new storage array in. A lot of people don't want to do that, so what happens? Well, in some cases we might put a PCIe SSD here and use it as a cache for the SQL application, right? Obviously if we put it there, that doesn't do us any good for the virtual machine over here that's having a performance problem. So what happens? We might put a PCIe SSD in there, or even a regular SSD, and accelerate just that one VM. Or we might decide to load it at the hypervisor level and accelerate all the VMs with that environment, okay? Other options, we can put a performance accelerator right in the network. And this basically is something that logically goes into the network, has a bunch of SSDs in it, and it essentially then caches everything going through the network, right? Of course, another option is we can put SSDs into our array and let it cache here, right? And so there's a lot of different decisions to be made. Probably part of it is impacted by what your network is. Probably a big part of it is how many performance problems do you have in the environment. But the net effect is that because of networking issues and the need to respond to performance problems, we very, very quickly start throwing things into the network. And we've encountered environments where there's 4 or 5 different performance acceleration solutions. So as you start to look at that occurrence, it really starts to make sense to go back and look at the environment and say, okay, maybe it makes sense for us to refresh now. And so then you start looking at storage systems, and what we need is storage systems that can manage multiple workloads. And so that means that they have to be adept at these different type of environments. So clearly, a VM running a database and Microsoft SQL running a database are similar, but we might have different things happening here. We might have a large media server here that's doing a lot of large file ingest that could be causing a different type of performance problem. So just putting SSD here may or may not help us, right? What we think we need to do now is get more intelligence at the storage controller level and have it start to adapt itself based on what's happening in the network. So that's a quick look at performance sprawl. Tune into our webinar where the CTO of Coho Data and I discuss all the different aspects of not only performance sprawl but also storage hardware sprawl in general, and give you some ideas in which you can fix it.